What would you do if a dying man handed you the keys to his ranch and said, "They're coming at dawn to kill every dog on this property. And if you're here when they arrive, they'll kill you too"? That's exactly what happened to Navy SEAL veteran Axel Thompson when a desperate phone call led him to the most dangerous rescue of his life. A remote Montana ranch where 12 German Shepherd puppies were about to become victims of a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of corporate power. But what 78-year-old rancher William Bill Murphy didn't tell Axel was that these weren't just any puppies. They were the last surviving bloodline of the most legendary search and rescue dogs in American history. And there were people who would commit mass murder to make sure that bloodline died with them. This is the true story of a last stand that pitted one Navy SEAL and 8 German Shepherds against a private army, a corporate conspiracy that had already claimed 6 lives, and the moment when "they'll have to go through me first" became the battle cry that would either save a legendary bloodline or cost everyone their lives. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your location in the comments, and if you believe that some legacies are worth fighting for no matter the odds, hit that like button. You're going to need every bit of courage you have for this one. Now let's begin. The phone call that would change everything came at 11:43 p.m. on a Monday in October, waking Axel Thompson from the first peaceful sleep he'd had in weeks at his Montana cabin. "Mr. Thompson?" The voice was male, elderly, and carried the weight of someone who knew he was about to die. "This is Bill Murphy. I got your number from Sheriff Chen. I need the Midnight Brotherhood." Axel was immediately alert, his thick dark beard still bearing the creases of sleep, but his weathered military features hardening into the focus that had served him through countless emergencies. "What's your situation, Mr. Murphy?" "I'm dying, son. Cancer. Maybe 6 hours left, maybe less, but that's not why I'm calling. I'm calling because at sunrise, they're coming to kill every dog on my property, and if anyone tries to stop them, they'll kill them too." Scout, Ranger, Angel, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo, the complete Midnight Brotherhood, were already moving into alert positions around Axel's cabin. After years of emergency calls, they could sense when a mission was beginning. "Who's coming, Mr. Murphy? And why would they want to kill dogs?" "Kronos Corporation. They've been trying to buy my ranch for 2 years so they can build a chemical processing plant. I kept refusing, so they started killing my dogs one by one, making it look like accidents. Poisoned food, vehicle accidents, mysterious illnesses. They've killed 18 dogs in the past 6 months. Axel's blood ran cold. Kronos Corporation was one of the largest chemical companies in the world, with resources that could buy governments and silence anyone who opposed their interests. "Mr. Murphy, why would a corporation that size care about one ranch?" "Because my ranch sits on top of the largest lithium deposit in North America, worth about $12 billion. And because the dogs they've been killing aren't just any dogs, they're the bloodline of the original search and rescue dogs that helped develop modern canine training techniques." Bill Murphy's voice was growing weaker, but his urgency was increasing. "Mr. Thompson, I've got 12 German Shepherd puppies here, 8 weeks old. They're the last of the bloodline that traces back to the dogs that saved hundreds of lives during World War II, the Korean War, and Vietnam. If Kronos kills these puppies, that genetic line dies forever." "Where are you now?" "Murphy Ranch, about 40 miles north of your position." "But Mr. Thompson, you need to understand what you're walking into. Kronos has hired Blackwater Security, 12 men with military-grade weapons and authorization to use lethal force against anyone who interferes with their property acquisition operations." Axel looked at Scout, Ranger, Angel, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo, who were all showing the alert behavior that meant they understood this wasn't a routine rescue. This was war. "Mr. Murphy, 12 men with military weapons against 1 Navy SEAL and 8 dogs. Those aren't good odds." "Son, I've been watching your work for 2 years. The Midnight Brotherhood has saved more lives than any search and rescue team in Montana history. Those 12 puppies represent the future of search and rescue operations. If they die, hundreds of people who could have been saved will die too." Bill Murphy coughed violently before continuing. "I'm not asking you to win an impossible fight. I'm asking you to give those puppies a chance to grow up and save the lives they were bred to save. What's your plan? There is no plan. Kronos has legal paperwork claiming my ranch is collateral for debts I never signed. They have government authorization to clear the property of feral animals for public safety. They have private military contractors to handle anyone who resists, and they have unlimited resources to make sure no one ever finds out what really happened here. Axel studied the tactical situation. A dying rancher, 12 helpless puppies, a private army arriving at dawn, and a corporate conspiracy with enough power to make an entire ranch disappear without consequences. Mr. Murphy, how long until they arrive? Maybe 5 hours. Sun comes up at 6:47 a.m. They'll be here at first light. 5 hours to plan a defense against overwhelming odds, protect 12 puppies who couldn't protect themselves, and honor the last wish of a dying man who had spent his life preserving a genetic legacy that could save countless future lives. Mr. Murphy, I'm on my way, but I need you to answer one question. Why me? Why call the Midnight Brotherhood instead of the FBI, the military, or federal authorities? Bill Murphy was quiet for so long that Axel thought he had died. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he said, "Because Kronos owns pieces of all of them. Because official channels take time we don't have. And because sometimes the only people who can stand against unlimited power are the people who fight for love instead of money." As Axel prepared for what might be his final mission, he realized that this wasn't just about saving 12 puppies. This was about proving that some legacies are more important than corporate profits. Some bloodlines are more valuable than chemical processing plants, and some fights are worth taking even when the odds guarantee that everyone involved will die trying. The Midnight Brotherhood was about to make their last stand. But first, they had to survive until dawn. The drive to Murphy Ranch through Montana's mountain roads took 43 minutes, but it was the most strategically important 43 minutes of Axel Thompson's life, time he used to plan a defense against impossible odds. Scout Ranger Angel, he spoke to the Midnight Brotherhood as they traveled through the darkness. "We're not just conducting a rescue operation tonight. We're going to war against people who have unlimited resources and no moral boundaries." The Brotherhood sensed the gravity of the situation. This wasn't search and rescue, this was combat preparation. Each dog began exhibiting the focused behavior that had made them legendary, but with an intensity that spoke of understanding that survival was no longer guaranteed. When they arrived at Murphy Ranch, Axel found a property that looked like a fortress preparing for siege. Bill Murphy had spent his final hours creating defensive positions, barricading access roads, and preparing the ranch house for what he knew would be a battle to the death. "Mr. Murphy," Axel called as he entered the ranch house, immediately sensing the smell of death that came from someone in their final hours. "In here, son," came the weak reply from the living room. Bill Murphy lay on a makeshift bed beside the fireplace, clearly dying but still alert enough to coordinate the defense of his property. Surrounding him, in a protective circle that broke Axel's heart, were 12 German Shepherd puppies, 8 weeks old, eyes bright with intelligence, completely unaware that they were about to become the target of a corporate execution. "Jesus Christ," Axel whispered, looking at the puppies who represented the last hope of preserving a genetic line that had saved hundreds of lives across 3 wars. "Beautiful, aren't they?" Murphy said weakly. Their great-great-grandmother was Rin, the dog who saved 17 soldiers during the Battle of the Bulge. Their bloodline includes Rex, who found 43 survivors after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. These puppies carry the genetic memory of 8 decades of heroism. But it was what Murphy told Axel next that revealed the true scope of what they were facing. Kronos didn't just want my ranch for the lithium, son. They wanted these dogs. 3 months ago, they offered me $50 million for the breeding rights to this bloodline. When I refused, they decided to take everything by force and eliminate anyone who could prove what they'd done. Murphy handed Axel a folder containing documents that made his blood run cold. Kronos Corporation had systematically murdered 6 ranchers across 3 states who had refused to sell properties containing valuable mineral deposits. Each death had been staged as an accident, and each property had been acquired within weeks of the owner's demise. "They've perfected the process," Murphy explained. "Kill the owner, claim the property through fraudulent debt documents, eliminate any witnesses, including animals that might carry valuable genetic material they can't control." Axel studied the tactical situation while the 12 puppies played innocently around Murphy's bed. The ranch house was defensible, but not impregnable. Kronos had the advantage of numbers, weapons, legal cover, and unlimited resources. But the Midnight Brotherhood had advantages that money couldn't buy. Mr. Murphy, these puppies, do they show any of the abilities that made their ancestors legendary? Son, you wouldn't believe what I've seen in the past 8 weeks. These aren't normal puppies. They seem to understand complex situations, coordinate with each other during play in ways that suggest tactical thinking, and 3 of them have already shown scent detection abilities that exceed adult dogs. As if to demonstrate, one of the puppies, a female with distinctive white markings, approached Axel and began exhibiting the alert behavior that indicated she had detected something significant. "That's Luna," Murphy said, with pride despite his pain. "She's been warning me about approaching vehicles for 3 weeks. Her great-grandmother saved 43 people by detecting gas leaks before explosion." Luna barked once, a sharp, intelligent sound that meant danger approaching from the North Access Road. Axel checked his tactical watch, 2:17 a.m., still 4.5 hours until the planned assault, but Kronos was sending advanced scouts to assess defensive preparations. "Scout, Ranger, Angel," Axel commanded. "Perimeter reconnaissance. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo defensive positions around the puppies." What followed was the most sophisticated defensive coordination Axel had ever witnessed. The Midnight Brotherhood and the 12 puppies began working together with a level of tactical understanding that defied explanation. The adult dogs established overlapping security zones, while the puppies, somehow understanding that they were being protected, moved into the center of the formation and began making the soft melodic sounds that were the Midnight Brotherhood signature. But it was Luna who demonstrated abilities that would change everything about the coming battle. The small puppy moved to the window facing north and began making specific sounds. Not random puppy noises, but what appeared to be a communication pattern that Scout, Ranger, and Angel immediately understood. "She's giving them tactical intelligence," Axel realized. "Luna is somehow detecting and communicating information about the approaching scouts." Within minutes, Scout returned with confirmation, 2 vehicles with 4 armed men conducting surveillance, positioning for the dawn assault. "Mr. Murphy," Axel said, watching the extraordinary coordination between adult dogs and 8-week-old puppies. "These aren't just the descendants of legendary dogs. These puppies are already demonstrating abilities that exceed their ancestors." Murphy smiled weakly. "Son, what do you think happens when you breed 8 decades of the most intelligent, loyal, and tactically sophisticated dogs in military history? You get puppies that are born understanding things that take normal dogs years to learn." As dawn approached and the sounds of vehicle engines multiplied in the distance, Axel realized that the impossible defense he was planning had just become possible. He wasn't just fighting alongside 8 adult German shepherds. He was commanding a unit that included 12 puppies who had inherited the tactical genius of their legendary ancestors and were already beginning to demonstrate abilities that would revolutionize search and rescue operations. The question was, would they live long enough to grow up and fulfill the destiny encoded in their genetic memory? Kronos Corporation was about to discover that some legacies fight back. At 6:47 a.m., as the first rays of Montana sunrise broke over the mountains, Kronos Corporation's private army arrived to execute what they assumed would be a simple extermination operation. What they found instead was the most sophisticated defensive operation in the history of corporate warfare, a coordinated battle plan that combined Navy SEAL tactics with 8 decades of canine military intelligence. "Base, this is Strike Team Alpha," came the radio transmission from the lead Blackwater vehicle. "We have 12 armed contractors in position around the Murphy Ranch. Intelligence shows 1 civilian male inside with unknown number of animals, initiating termination protocol." But what Blackwater's thermal imaging hadn't detected was that Bill Murphy had died peacefully at 4:33 a.m., surrounded by 12 German Shepherd puppies who had somehow understood that their protector was leaving them and had begun making harmonized sounds of farewell that guided him peacefully into death. Now Axel Thompson and 20 dogs, 8 adults and 12 puppies, were the only things standing between Kronos Corporation and the elimination of the most valuable genetic line in search and rescue history. Scout, Ranger, Angel, Axel commanded from his defensive position in the ranch house. Execute defensive pattern 7. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, protect the puppies and follow Luna's tactical guidance. What happened next would be studied in military academies and corporate security firms for decades. 12 8-week-old German Shepherd puppies demonstrated tactical coordination that exceeded professional military units. Luna, the lead puppy who had inherited her great-grandmother's supernatural detection abilities, began coordinating defensive intelligence with precision that defied belief. Using sound patterns that the adult brotherhood immediately understood, she provided real-time updates on enemy positions, weapon types, and tactical movements. When the first Blackwater team attempted to breach the north entrance, they were met by Scout, Ranger, and Angel, executing flanking maneuvers guided by tactical intelligence provided by puppies who could detect heartbeats, stress pheromones, and weapon signatures from distances that should have been impossible. "What the hell are we fighting?" came the confused radio transmission from Strike Team Alpha. "These aren't normal dogs. They're operating like a coordinated military unit." But it was when the Blackwater contractors attempted to use gas grenades to flush out the defenders that the puppies revealed abilities that changed everything about the battle. 3 of the 12 puppies, apparently inheriting their ancestors' chemical detection capabilities, identified the gas composition and somehow communicated antidote information to their pack. The adult dogs immediately began guiding everyone to air pockets and ventilation areas that neutralized the gas attack. "Base, this is Strike Team Alpha," came the increasingly desperate radio call. "We need immediate backup. These animals are demonstrating tactical capabilities that exceed our training parameters." Kronos Corporation's response revealed the true scope of their resources and ruthlessness. "Strike Team Alpha, this is Base Command. You are authorized to use any means necessary to eliminate all targets. $12 billion is at stake. No witnesses, no survivors, no evidence." What followed was an escalation that transformed a property dispute into a war between corporate power and moral courage. Blackwater deployed military-grade explosives, automatic weapons, and coordination tactics designed for urban warfare. But they were fighting an enemy unlike anything they had ever encountered. The 12 puppies, led by Luna, began demonstrating abilities that their legendary ancestors had developed over 8 decades of saving human lives. They could predict enemy movements, coordinate complex defensive patterns, and communicate tactical information with precision that allowed the adult brotherhood to operate with supernatural effectiveness. When Blackwater attempted to surround the ranch house, Luna guided Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo in a counterattack that used the puppies as mobile intelligence units. Each young dog positioned themselves to provide real-time battlefield information, while the adults executed coordinated strikes that neutralized threats with minimal violence. "This is impossible," radioed one Blackwater contractor. "We're being outmaneuvered by dogs that are barely 2 months old." But it was Axel who provided the tactical leadership that turned defense into victory. Using military strategies perfected during his Navy SEAL years, combined with the Brotherhood's search and rescue expertise and the puppies' inherited tactical intelligence, Axel orchestrated a battle plan that turned Kronos Corporation's advantages against them. When Blackwater used their superior numbers to attempt multiple simultaneous assaults, Axel coordinated a defensive pattern that allowed each attack to be met by dogs who knew exactly where to position themselves for maximum effectiveness. When Kronos deployed electronic surveillance to track defender movements, the puppies' supernatural detection abilities provided counterintelligence that made the Brotherhood invisible to technological monitoring. And when Blackwater attempted to use psychological warfare, threatening to execute captured puppies to force surrender, they discovered that they were fighting a family willing to die for each other. "Luna," Axel said to the lead puppy during the most critical phase of the battle, "I need you to coordinate one final defensive pattern. Can you guide everyone to positions that will protect the bloodline no matter what happens to me?" Luna looked up at Axel with eyes that held 8 decades of genetic memory from dogs who had saved thousands of lives, and made the sound that meant understood and ready. What followed was the most sophisticated military coordination ever achieved between humans and canines, a battle plan that would either save the last of a legendary bloodline or honor their choice to die fighting rather than surrender to corporate evil. As explosions rocked the ranch house and automatic weapons fire filled the Montana morning air, 12 German Shepherd puppies proved that some genetic legacies are so powerful that they can survive anything, including a private army sent to erase them from history. The bloodline that had saved lives across 3 wars was about to fight for its own survival, and every shot fired by Kronos Corporation's mercenaries was met by tactical responses from dogs who had inherited the courage, intelligence, and unbreakable loyalty of 8 decades of heroes. The battle that should have ended with the massacre of 20 dogs and 1 Navy SEAL instead became the corporate scandal that brought down one of the world's largest chemical companies and saved a genetic legacy worth more than $12 billion. By 9:23 a.m., 3 hours after the first shots were fired, Blackwater Security had lost 6 contractors to a defensive operation that defied every principle of military engagement. They weren't just fighting animals. They were fighting a coordinated intelligence network that seemed to predict their every move. Base Command, this is Strike Team Alpha, came the desperate radio transmission. We need immediate extraction. The targets are demonstrating capabilities that suggest military training beyond our operational parameters. We have multiple casualties and 0 confirmed eliminations. But Kronos Corporation's response revealed just how far they were willing to go to protect their investment. Strike Team Alpha, you are not authorized for extraction. Eliminate all targets or your contracts are terminated with prejudice. $12 billion does not negotiate with animals. That transmission, recorded by Luna's supernatural hearing abilities and somehow communicated to Axel through tactical coordination that shouldn't have been possible, became the evidence that would expose the entire conspiracy. Using emergency communication equipment that Bill Murphy had hidden throughout the ranch, Axel began broadcasting Kronos Corporation's orders to eliminate witnesses, their admission of systematic murder, and their authorization of lethal force against civilian targets. The transmissions reached Sheriff Chen, FBI field offices, and investigative journalists simultaneously, creating a real-time documentation of corporate assassination that couldn't be covered up or denied. But it was the 12 German Shepherd puppies who provided the most devastating evidence against Kronos Corporation. Led by Luna, the puppies had somehow coordinated to preserve evidence of every crime Kronos had committed. Using inherited abilities that combined supernatural scent detection with tactical intelligence, they had located hidden documents, recorded conversations, and physical evidence that proved 6 previous murders. How is this possible? Dr. Sarah Martinez asked when she arrived with emergency medical teams to treat wounded Blackwater contractors. These puppies are 8 weeks old. They shouldn't be capable of coordinated evidence preservation. Dr. Martinez, Axel replied while watching Luna coordinate post-battle security with the adult brotherhood. These aren't just puppies. They're the culmination of 8 decades of selective breeding designed to create the ultimate search and rescue bloodline. What we're seeing is genetic memory expressing itself as active intelligence. The abilities the puppies had demonstrated during the battle were unprecedented in canine behavior, tactical coordination, evidence preservation, predictive threat assessment, and communication capabilities that allowed them to function as an integrated intelligence network. When FBI agents arrived to arrest the surviving Blackwater contractors, they found a scene that would redefine their understanding of both corporate crime and animal intelligence. 12 German Shepherd puppies had not only survived a military assault designed to exterminate them, they had coordinated their own defense, preserved evidence of multiple felonies, and somehow managed to document every crime Kronos Corporation had committed across 3 states. Agent Santos, Axel said to the lead FBI investigator, what you're looking at isn't just evidence of corporate murder. You're looking at the next evolution in search and rescue operations. These puppies represent genetic capabilities that could save thousands of lives over the next decade. 6 months later, Kronos Corporation faced federal charges that resulted in $47 billion in fines, the imprisonment of 17 executives, and the complete dismantling of their chemical processing operations. But more importantly, the Murphy Ranch had been designated as a federal preserve for the protection of genetic heritage. The 12 German Shepherd puppies, now 6 months old and demonstrating abilities that amazed researchers worldwide, had become the foundation for a new kind of search and rescue program that combined traditional training with inherited tactical intelligence. Luna, the lead puppy who had coordinated the impossible defense, had grown into a magnificent German shepherd whose capabilities exceeded every standard measurement for canine intelligence and tactical awareness. "She's not just a search and rescue dog," Colonel Patricia Williams observed during a training evaluation. "Luna represents the next generation of human-canine partnerships. Her inherited abilities, combined with the Midnight Brotherhood's influence, have created something entirely new." But it was Emma Chen Thompson who provided the most important perspective on what the Last Stand had accomplished. "You know what I learned from watching Luna and her brothers and sisters fight for their lives?" Emma asked Axel during one of their evening conversations at the cabin. "What's that, sweetheart?" "I learned that some families are so important that the world conspires to protect them. Luna's family carries the genetic memory of saving lives across 3 wars, and when someone tried to end that legacy, the universe sent the Midnight Brotherhood to make sure it survived." The evening harmony that filled Axel's cabin now included 20 voices: Scout, Ranger, Angel, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, and 12 young German shepherds whose melodic sounds carried the genetic memory of 8 decades of heroism. Luna, now fully grown but still leading her littermates with the tactical wisdom that had saved their lives, often approached Axel with the same intelligent gaze that had coordinated their impossible defense. "You know what the real victory was?" Sarah Mitchell asked during one of the family gatherings that had become tradition at the Thompson cabin. "What's that?" "The real victory was proving that some legacies are stronger than unlimited money. Some bonds are deeper than corporate contracts, and some families are worth fighting for, even when the odds say everyone should die trying." Axel looked around at his chosen family. Emma, whose survival had taught them about resilience, the original Midnight Brotherhood, whose search and rescue expertise had saved hundreds of lives, Sarah and Rex, whose law enforcement experience had expanded their capabilities, and now Luna and her 11 siblings, whose inherited tactical genius represented the future of search and rescue operations. "Sarah," Axel replied, "I think what the Last Stand really proved is that when good families work together, they don't just survive impossible odds, they create new possibilities that didn't exist before." 20 voices continued their evening song, filling the Montana cabin with harmonies that carried the genetic memory of every life saved by their bloodline across 8 decades of service. Because sometimes the most important battles aren't fought on battlefields or in boardrooms. Sometimes they're fought by families who refuse to let evil win, legacies that refuse to be erased, and genetic memories so powerful that they can coordinate impossible victories against unlimited resources. And sometimes the strongest weapon against corporate power isn't money or authority. Sometimes it's love so deep that it passes from generation to generation, creating capabilities that money can't buy and contracts can't control. For Bill Murphy, who spent his final hours protecting a legacy more valuable than $12 billion. For Luna and 11 siblings who proved that some genetic memories are so powerful they can fight for their own survival. For every search and rescue bloodline that carries the inherited wisdom of generations dedicated to saving human lives. For the Murphy Ranch Federal Preserve, where legendary bloodlines are protected from corporate greed forever. Welcome to a world where genetic memory fights back, where inherited heroism defies impossible odds, and where the strongest families are those whose legacy spans generations of service to others. One last stand that became a first victory. 12 puppies who inherited 8 decades of tactical genius. 20 voices singing the song of families that choose to fight rather than surrender. Sometimes the most valuable inheritance isn't money. It's the genetic memory of how to save lives. We want to hear what you felt while listening to this story. Don't forget to comment and rate the story out of 10.